Imagine a 3-year-old girl in the thick of Hollywood's golden years, objectified, abused, and overly sexualized. It sounds pretty unbelievable. Yet, sadly, that was the fate of Shirley Temple, one of the earliest child stars in Hollywood, who unfortunately made it to the silver screen before censorship guidelines had been established. On the 16th of September 2022, Netflix released the biopic of Marilyn Monroe by Andrew Dominik. The message in the movie reminded viewers of another Hollywood star with a rather tragic legacy. A star that many had heard of, but may not know much about. Of course, we are talking of Shirley Jane Temple, a 3-year-old superstar who climbed to the pinnacle of fame in Hollywood, starring in over 20 films before turning 10, sexualized, objectified, and brutalized, only to retire at age 22 with just $40,000 to her name. When you think of Shirley Temple, what comes to mind? Those bouncing curls and dimpled smile? Or perhaps her iconic performance of On the Good Ship Lollipop? For millions of Americans during the Great Depression, Shirley Temple was someone who could make them all forget their troubles, even if only for a moment. But behind that smile lay a dark and brutal past. Born in Santa Monica, California in 1928, Shirley Temple stepped into the spotlight at an age when most kids were still learning to tie their shoes. Her parents, particularly her mother, Gertrude, recognized Shirley's star potential early on. In fact, by the mere age of 3, little Shirley was already in front of the camera, starring in a series of short films called Baby Burlesques. This collection of films was produced by Jack Hayes and directed by Charles Lamont. They featured toddlers dressed in hypersexualized adult costumes and placed in mature, often risque scenarios. One of them included a young Shirley Temple playing what appears to be a prostitute, wearing only a bra and a diaper, sent to entertain a senator, also played by a child actor. The impropriety of these films was compounded by the harsh treatment of the child actors on set. Director Charles Lamont was notorious for using severe punishment to maintain discipline among his young cast. The most infamous of these was the punishment box, a tiny, windowless enclosure where misbehaving children were forced to sit on a block of ice as a form of discipline. This method of control highlights the troubling exploitation and mistreatment that Shirley Temple and her peers endured during their early years in Hollywood. Shirley later described these production sets as having a very strong time is money attitude at the expense of the child actors' physical and mental health. Shirley, like many other children on the set, was forced to work while injured on several occasions. One of the most memorable being Shirley had to work barely a day after undergoing a serious eardrum operation. But this was just the beginning of Shirley's journey into the heart of Hollywood. Her real breakthrough came in 1934, when she appeared in Stand Up and Cheer. Overnight, Shirley Temple became America's sweetheart. Her films were box office gold, offering a much-needed escape for audiences grappling with the harsh realities of the Great Depression. It was a chance for people to forget, even for a few hours, the horrors of their own lives. Shirley grew as a young icon, and so did the demands placed upon her tiny shoulders. At an age when most kids were playing with dolls, Shirley was working 6 days a week, often for long hours that would make most adults burn out rather quickly. She had to memorize lines, master complex dance routines, and always maintain that jolly outlook. Matter of fact, one of the most iconic aspects of Shirley's image was her perfectly curled hair, but those 56 pin curls didn't happen by magic. Every single day, Shirley's mother would painstakingly set her hair, a process that became so routine that Shirley once wondered why other kids at school didn't have to go through the same ordeal. Doesn't that sound horrid? What's worse is that the pressure to maintain her image extended far beyond her hair. Shirley was expected to be the perfect child both on and off screen, to such an extreme extent that she was coached on how to interact with fans and the press, always maintaining her sweet and precocious persona. The line between Shirley Temple the actress and Shirley Temple the person began to blur, leaving little room for the normal development of a child. Despite the demanding nature of her career, Shirley's talent continued to shine, most likely thanks to her commendable perseverance. She starred in a string of hit films including Bright Eyes, The Little Colonel, and Curly Top. Her ability to sing, dance, and act with a maturity beyond her years made her the top box office draw for 3 long years, from 1935 to 1938. But at what cost? Instead of playing with toys and attending school, Shirley was memorizing lines and performing for the cameras. Think of the pressure put upon such an innocent young child. Her education was often squeezed in between takes on set or during rare breaks in her filming schedule. However, the attention she got wasn't always positive. In a notorious event in 1937, author Graham Greene wrote a disturbing review of Shirley's part in the film Captain January. His thoughts on her and her career were simply reprehensible. He wrote, "Her neat and well-developed rump twisted in the tap dance." He went on to elaborate on his vile and inappropriate observations with the review on Wee Willie Winkie, saying such things as, "Watch the way she measures a man with agile studio eyes, with dimpled depravity." In retaliation, Shirley and her employer at the time, 20th Century Fox, sued Greene over these statements in a notorious libel lawsuit, which she won. In a mature response, she donated the money she received to the Variety Club, a children's charity which focused on aiding disadvantaged and special needs children, further highlighting her commitment to helping others. As far as the money she earned on stage, you'd think being Hollywood's biggest star would set one up for life, right? Well, the answer should be an easy yes, but not for Shirley. Despite being the highest paid child star of her time, much of her earnings were controlled by her parents in the studio. By the time she turned 18, Shirley discovered that of the whopping $3.2 million she had earned, only $44,000 remained in her trust fund. The rest? Well, it had been spent on a lavish lifestyle she never chose to have, including the purchase of a grand home dubbed Shirley Temple's Chateau. Clearly, someone was irresponsibly managing her money. That someone was her father, George Temple, who had completely mismanaged her fortune, possibly illegally, investing in questionable ventures and maintaining an extravagant lifestyle for the family. Shockingly, in her 1988 autobiography, Child Star, Shirley wrote that she felt no disappointment or anger upon learning of this financial betrayal. This lack of financial protection for child stars was a dark reality of Hollywood's golden age, leaving even its brightest star with little to show for their years of hard work. As Shirley grew older, the challenges she faced also evolved. The transition from child star to adult actress proved difficult. Audiences struggled to accept her in more mature roles, and the parts she was offered became fewer and less substantial. This period of her life was marked by a sense of loss, not just of her career, but of the childhood she never truly had. And of course, the pressures of fame took their toll in other ways as well. Shirley faced numerous threats to her safety, including a chilling incident in 1939, when a woman attempted to shoot her during a live radio performance. The woman, who was quickly apprehended, believed that Shirley, 11 at the time, had stolen her daughter's soul. But perhaps the most troubling aspect of Shirley's childhood in the spotlight were the ones she only felt comfortable revealing years later. In Child Star, Shirley opened up about some of the more disturbing experiences she had during her career. She revealed that she was subjected to inappropriate advances from studio producer Arthur Freed when she was just 12 years old. She went on to describe numerous other predatory encounters from various men in the industry, one of which was about 5 years later, at the age of 17. Shirley fell victim to another producer, David O. Selznick, of Selznick International Pictures, who attempted to assault her. She was lucky enough to escape the ordeal unharmed, but it certainly had a damaging effect on her psyche. The way Shirley was often sexualized, despite her young age, is particularly disturbing when viewed in today's times. What's unbelievable is that in many of her films, she played characters who formed close relationships with adult men, often reforming them through her childish charm. While these storylines were presented as innocent at the time, they reflect a troubling pattern of the objectification of child actors. This honestly leaves us wondering how nobody spoke up about this at the time. Just like in Baby Burlesques, as mentioned earlier, which featured Shirley as a streetwalker exchanging kisses for lollipops. The implications of such content are deeply disturbing by today's standards, yet, at the time, they were apparently seen as harmless entertainment. What's more is that Shirley's mother played a significant role in shaping her daughter's career, but mostly in negative ways. While she undoubtedly loved Shirley, her ambition and determination to see her daughter succeed often blurred the lines between protection and exploitation. In fact, she was almost always on set to watch over Shirley, which clearly didn't improve matters. In addition, the pressure to maintain Shirley's innocent image extended to some extreme measures. For example, and as ridiculous as it sounds, Shirley's front teeth fell out at age 6, and she was fitted with a dental plate to hide the gap until her adult teeth grew in. This just shows the lengths to which the studio, and the handlers, arguably including her mother, would go to preserve the perfect image of their young star. These actions resulted in rumors that Shirley was not a child at all, but instead a 30-year-old woman posing as a young girl. You can only imagine how this made the innocent little girl feel. These vicious viewers would point out her stocky build and adult-like teeth and claim that she couldn't possibly be a child. The rumors caused such an issue that the Vatican sent Father Silvio Massante to investigate the claims of 10-year-old Shirley being an adult. There were also rumors that her beautiful blonde curly hair was not natural and that she actually wore a wig. Sometimes, when she stepped out in public, some crazy fan would pull her hair to confirm if it was real. Despite the hardships she faced, Shirley Temple's talent and charisma were undeniable, to say the least. Her films certainly did provide a much-needed escape for audiences during the Great Depression, offering hope and cheer in difficult times. Shirley's ability to lift spirits and bring joy to millions is evident. However, the cost of this joy to Shirley herself was significant, which she addressed in later interviews, speaking of the loss of her childhood and the challenges of growing up in the public eye. She once said, "I stopped believing in Santa Claus when I was 6. Mother took me to see him in a department store, and he asked me for my autograph."